Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Amy. I am a travel agent and a travel blogger. I usually talk about Hawaii, but Hawaii is shut down to tourists right now. So lately we've been talking a lot about Disney, Universal, and things like that. And today we're going to talk about Universal and what it's like visiting Universal right now. So we recently got back from a trip to Universal Orlando, and we're just going to talk about it a little bit. Now this video is not like how to decide if you should go right now with everything that's going on in the world. I'm not going to say the word. I don't want YouTube to ding me for that, but you know what I'm talking about. This is not about that. That's a decision that you have to make on your own, and not one that you should probably make watching YouTube videos. So this is more for people who know they want to go and are just trying to decide, is it worth it to go right now? What is it like visiting Universal Orlando right now, etc. So the very first thing, and this is Kanan, and he's going to help me out because we are Universal annual pass holders. Oh, and before we get started, I wanted to say that my friend Virginia makes these really awesome shirts. I'll link to her Facebook and Etsy account. This is just the Ravenclaw housewords, and then my shirt says, "You're just as sane as I am," which if you're a Harry Potter fan, you know Luna Lovegood said that, and she's my favorite, and also a Ravenclaw, as are both of us. So anyway, I'm going to link to her shirts, because then, you know, everybody walking around the park a lot of times has shirts and stuff from the park, which we love, but, you know, if you want to have something a little bit more unique, you can go get them personalized. So let's go ahead and jump right into what it's like to visit Universal Orlando right now. So let's talk about masks. So you do have to wear a face covering. It does not necessarily have to be a mask. There are people wearing
Face shields.
Well, face shields, but also bandanas and things like that. Universal does say face covering and not masks specifically. If you have a medical reason where you cannot wear a mask, they will let you wear a face shield, so that is an option. It's a little bit different. Disney just reopened, and Disney is not offering, Disney is not accommodating people who cannot wear masks in any way, period. If you can't wear a mask, you can't go to Disney. So, so what do you think it's like to wear a mask around Universal all day?
Well, since it's Florida, it gets pretty hot eventually.
So here's a pro tip: is bring multiple masks, because you're going to need them, because they get really nasty. And then make sure you have some way to wash them, even if you just bring like some laundry soap with you and wash them in your sink and then dry them at night. That's what we did a couple of times, because they're going to get really gross and you're going to go through way more than you think that you will. So they do sell masks at Universal. Kanan liked them and I didn't. So I like, there's these masks at Target. They're 2-packs for like $4. I like that. I can breathe a little better in that. The ones from Universal, I really struggled breathing in. So, but he liked them.
Yes.
So, you know, I would say try a few out before you go. But in a pinch, they do sell them at Universal, and we saw them in several shops. There are a couple of shops that were sold out, but we saw them in several shops. So my recommendation would be just to keep looking, look around, ask around. And I believe that you can look on the Universal app as well. So let's talk a little bit more about masks, because that's honestly the biggest difference visiting Universal right now is the masks. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, on 3 rides, the water rides, you do not have to wear a mask while riding them.
That's true. So you don't have to wear a mask on the water rides. That's very important. You can take it off entirely, but when you get off that water ride, you are going to want to have it handy, because they are going to ask you to put it back on pretty quickly. You also don't have to wear a mask, obviously, when you're dining. And even if you're just walking around and you need to take a drink, you can just kind of step off to the side and pull your mask off and take a drink. It's not a big deal. If you're walking around without it on, someone's probably going to say something to you, but if you're just taking a drink or whatever, it didn't seem to be a big deal. We really saw a lot of that. And then they do have the U-Rest zones. I think there are 6 of them, but I could be wrong. And you can go into the U-Rest zone and take your mask off for as long as you want, as long as you're in the zone and away from other parties. And they're huge areas, so it's easy enough to be away from other parties. But, I mean, even if you just need a little break from your mask, whenever you sit down to eat, you can take it off at the table. So it's not like you really have to wear it all day. And fortunately, because it's Universal, a lot of the rides are indoors and air conditioned. So that makes it a little better. But it is hard to wear it all day. It is nasty and not very hygienic, and probably not helpful to you, but you know, you gotta follow the rules, so definitely have a bunch of them on you just to make sure that you're not wearing a really nasty mask all day, because that can't be good for you either. So yeah, if you have any other questions about masks, just reach out and let me know, but generally speaking, as long as you have a face covering and you have extras, you should be fine. Just make sure to keep it on, and they are required in the Universal hotels as well, so that's important to know.
Another new thing is that they are having temperature checks to get into Universal hotels and the park.
So if you're staying at a resort hotel, which I do recommend just because I recommend it in general, but especially right now with limited capacity, that is a way to guarantee that you'll get in. Now, I will say that since Universal has opened, I don't believe they've reached capacity at all. I know that Volcano Bay has, but I don't believe that the other two parks have reached capacity. But if you are going and you would like to visit Volcano Bay, you're definitely going to want to have to be staying at a Universal resort, because that's the only way to really guarantee that you'll be able to get in, is to be staying there. So they're doing those temp checks. If you're staying in a hotel, you can get it done at the hotel, get a wristband, and you're good all day in and out of Universal, Islands of Adventure, Volcano Bay. You're set. Now, that is only for resort guests. So if you're not staying at a resort, you'll have to have it done at City Walk, at the security entrance every time you come through. You'll have to have that temp check. But it's just a non-invasive, you know, where they point the thing at your head, and it feels kind of weird. But there's a lot of places that do that now, so you're probably used to it. So yeah, the temp checks. And then let's talk about sanitizing, because I honestly think that Universal has just done a really good job with keeping everything absolutely as clean as possible. I mean, anytime you walk around, you'll see team members cleaning railings. They're cleaning a lot of the ride vehicles between use. I mean, they're doing a really good job, don't you think?
Yeah, and every time you're about to get on a ride, they put sanitizer on your hands.
Yes, and if you bring your own sanitizer and you have a kind that you prefer to use, that's kind of a bummer, because they do make you put some of theirs on before you get on the ride. But yeah, I mean, it's just a safety measure. It's just a thing. If you want to go right now, this is something you need to know. But yeah, they are making you put on sanitizer. They're cleaning ride vehicles in between uses a lot of times. And then another thing is the distancing. So we should probably talk about that, because on a lot of the rides, whereas before you could maybe fit 16 people on, now you might have 3 or 5 people on these big ride vehicles, because they're putting rows between parties. So if you have a party of 2, you're going to take up a row of 4, and then there's going to be an empty row behind you, and then another party of 2 or 3, and then an empty row. You know what I mean? So I mean, they're really spreading things out.
And in the line itself, they will have 6 feet stickers marked between everything.
Which is so nice. Of all the things that they're doing, I mean, that's one that I really love, because I have a video about the one problem with Hagrid's motorbike adventure, which I posted in like February of this year. And it's funny because that problem doesn't exist right now with the social distancing, because there's some areas in Hagrid's that get really claustrophobic. Not anymore, because people are spread out. So it does make the rides seem like they're going to be really long. Like, you'll get in line and you think, oh, I'm pretty far back. But remember, there's those 6 feet spacings between parties. And so a lot of times you can be pretty far back, but you'll just kind of continue walking up to the ride for the most part. So that's definitely different, but pretty easy. I mean, they've made it pretty easy for you to follow the rules. So one thing that might be a negative if you have not been to Universal before is that a lot of the pre-shows are not happening. So a lot of the pre-shows at, say, Hagrid's, Escape from Gringotts. Minions had a pre-show, but it was kind of different than usual. I don't know. I don't know about Shrek. We didn't even go on Shrek. I guess we should have. But a lot of the rides that normally have pre-shows don't, and it's just kind of part of the experience, especially in the Harry Potter area. So that can kind of be, you know, a little A little bit of a letdown if you're expecting that, but if you've seen it before, like we have, it's not that big of a deal. But if it is your first time, if you have young kids and they're like just really excited, it might be a little more magical to wait until those pre-shows are up and ready again. But essentially they can't stuff a bunch of people into a room like on Men in Black or Escape from Gringotts. They have fake elevators. They're not real, but they kind of just section people off. And they can't do that, you know,
Oh, I have good
and
news.
maintain social distance or physical distancing. Yes.
The Simpsons pre-show, that's still doing pretty good. There's just
Simpsons
some
pre-show.
distance. There's just some distancy, but still, that's doing pretty good.
Okay, so there are some. So it's not everywhere, but there are some shows. And I think, to me, the most disappointing ones would be in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, just because they are so much part of getting excited for the attraction. But the good news is you're not having to wait in very long lines, so it's not like you really need something to distract you from the long wait, because there aren't very many lines at all.
No.
No.
Most of the attractions we went on, we walk on.
Almost everything was walk-on. The one ride that seemed to consistently have a wait was the Incredible Hulk. But I think that's probably just due to the distancing rules and it being a popular ride. Hagrid's, I'm sure, would have had a line, but it was virtual line only, and those were really easy to snag. We got a couple every day that we tried, and a couple of them we even had to let go because we just couldn't use them. We weren't going to be there. But yeah, so if you use the app, you can get a virtual line for Hagrid's, and yeah, easier to ride Hagrid's than ever, so no complaints there. That's definitely a pro to going right now, is that there's essentially no lines whatsoever. So let's talk about Passholder benefits, because they had a few while we were there. So they had a dedicated parking lane for pass holders, but it was funny because they actually just like put people, like they were telling you which lane to get in, so it didn't matter. And then they had dedicated entry for pass holders, like into the park, but it was usually the furthest away, and so not the quickest. So those are gone as of July 5th, I believe. They're not doing those little pass holder perks anymore, but just to be totally honest, they weren't really perks anyway. They were just kind of like there, so. But there are some pass holder things going on. I mean, when we were there, if you ordered an entree with the mobile app, and we're going to talk about mobile order in a minute, you could get a free Coca-Cola refillable mug, which is nice, and you could refill it all day, and that's like $16.99 for one. So, I mean, that's a pretty good deal if you drink soda or Powerade or whatever. Oh yeah, and there's the pass holder lounge, but that's always there. That's not any different. And just while we're on the subject, I want to talk about being a pass holder because there are a ton of benefits. I mean, you can get your hotel stays cheaper. You obviously can go to the park as many times as you want. You don't have to live in the Orlando area to do it. I mean, we don't. But another nice benefit, you know, they have the pass holder lounge, and then also with certain levels of the passes, you can get 10% off merchandise throughout the park. So merchandise, food and drink, etc., and it really adds up to quite a bit because, I mean, you know that you're spending money at the park. That's just a given. And I do want to say, whenever I went to pick up my pass when I got it, the lady that was at guest services, she said, "Oh, I think there's something wrong here because this was too cheap." And I said, "Oh, it's I'm a travel agent. I bought it, you know, essentially through myself as a travel agent. You know, I don't get a travel agent discount, but I can use my own rates to buy, you know, annual passes and things like that. But they're not just rates for me, you guys. Like, they're for anybody." And she said, "That's crazy. You must, you know, your agency must sell a lot of Universal." And I said, "Yeah, you know, we do." And she said, "That's almost $100 less than what that pass should cost." So just a little heads up there. If you do want to get an annual pass, definitely let me know because we can get you better prices on those than what you can get directly through Universal. Like I said, I mean, the $100 cheaper, that's a pretty good deal. So yeah, so I think we've talked about annual passes enough because I realize that not everyone's going to get those. So let's talk about mobile order. Other than masks, I would say the mobile order was probably the biggest headache because they really are encouraging mobile order. Okay, but if you have food allergies or sensitivities or things like that, which I do. I have food allergies. You need to go and talk to a team member prior to mobile ordering, and then mobile order and hope that they communicate it with the kitchen, which makes me really nervous because I have something really bad where I need to be careful. So, and then it seems like mobile order, for places where you can normally go up and just grab food, kind of grab and go, mobile order took forever. It took a really long time. It got better while we were there, and I'm sure, you know, Universal has gone to using mobile orders from using mobile orders sometimes to just all the time, and so it's just, you know, adjusting, and I think it'll get better. But I'm just going to give you a heads up. You might want to mobile order a little earlier than you think you need to, because you're probably going to have to sit and wait for a minute. The good news is, if you're sitting at a table, you can take your mask off, and you're good. So, you know, like your own personal rest zone. But yeah, so mobile order is okay, but I think they'll improve it. So, fingers crossed that they will improve that system a little bit, but I think they will. So, let's just overall, do you think it's worth it right now to visit?
I do.
I do too. There are some pros, there are some cons. The pros are definitely that there are no lines, essentially. Wearing a mask all day in the heat is hard, so that's definitely a con. But I mean, overall, you know, just having so much space to yourself. They're still opening, the Born Spectacular opened while we were there. We were at the very first official show, so that was really fun.
There was just one thing wrong, there
was a little technical glitch. Yeah. But overall, I thought it was worth it. I thought it was nice to have less lines and a lot more riding than usual, especially in the summer, because it's usually so crazy in the summer. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think your favorite thing about visiting right now was?
It was definitely how easy it was to get on Hagrid's.
Yeah, so if you're wanting to try Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, there's no better time than right now, because when we visited in February, we only went on it once, and we waited almost 2 hours. And every time that we went on this last time, and we went on 6 or 7 times, it was just essentially a walk-on. I mean, a 6-foot spaced walk-on with other people, but a walk-on. So, there was one time the line was a little bit longer, but most of the time you just walked right in there. So, and the locker situation is a little different right now. That's one thing we didn't touch on. I'm going to do it really quick because this video is getting kind of long. The locker situation is a bit different. You do have to wait for a locker. So my recommendation on that is going to be to pack as light as possible. If you have like a fanny pack or something like that, you can take that on all but 2 rides, Rip Ride Rocket and the Hulk. So the lighter you pack, the less you'll have to worry about lockers, because getting in and out of lockers definitely takes longer than it used to, just because of social distancing measures and things like that. So yeah, I think that's about it. That's what it's like visiting Universal Orlando right now. We really enjoyed it. I think we had a lot of fun. We have a lot more videos that are going to be coming out about visiting Universal. We're going to talk about wearing masks all day in a little bit more detail. We're going to talk about Aventura versus Cabana Bay Resort. We're going to talk about so many different things. So make sure to click the subscribe button and then the bell to be notified when we have another video. And we'll see you soon. Max says, please subscribe.